So Ananda, you're right. The usual program of mind is to imagine frequently that there is something to be improved or something to worry about. It's a temptation related to operations as usual. What is the magic way to quell this propensity? Yeah, you know, Ananda, this impression that there is something that needs to be improved or can be improved, or something that we need to worry about or be concerned about, always relate to to somebody who perceives themselves as something. So it relates to an image. So there is an image meaning an imagination. Imagined is an imagined entity. Yeah, it's an imagined person. That that person that's imagined is like a personal consciousness. Its consciousness has now identified itself with a person. And so from then on, the name of the game is to worry, to improve, to succeed, to fail, to get trouble, to be happy for a moment, unhappy the next, and so on. That is the inevitable consequence of of consciousness taking on the impression of being somebody. In fact, there is nothing that can be improved, nothing that is off target. You know that not from the personal impression, but you know that from that is unchanging, from consciousness, from the point of view of consciousness. There are no separate others. There isn't a separate world or a separate entity that is concerned about himself or herself. You follow? So your question about the magic way to quell this propensity is to contemplate the wholeness of being. Another way of putting it is contemplate the belief that you are a man or a woman or that you are born. There is no evidence of you being anything. I am not denying that there may be some thoughts or beliefs that I am this or that, that I have a story or a history. I am not talking about that. We all know the thought that says, I am born in such and such a year, I'm male, I'm female, and so on. But what we fail to comprehend is that we are talking about the body-mind. And what I am is not the body-mind. The body-mind may need to be improved. For example, if you are eating, you're still not a vegetarian, you can make an improvement in your diet by becoming a vegetarian, especially, in view of the awful way in which animals are being treated in the world is very, very, very awful. And the toxicity and the unhappiness of the animal kingdom, and the fish, the way the fish is being harvested, is really awful. So okay, I'm getting.
Yeah, no, well, so that's it.
That's the.
Well, I mean, here's an example of improvement. It's just such a endemic thing.
Yes. So on that level, yes, there can be definitely improvement. You could start to contemplate, eating a vegetarian diet and a clean diet, and introducing in your life this sort of intention and this sort of way of relating, with. So the improvements are at that level, are at the level of like, for example, you could go for walks and exercise a little bit, breathe some fresh air, and slow down your workload and have a little more of a balance in your workload, and so that the body mind gets less stressed, less pressured from all these activities, and can therefore have more enjoyment, But what we are talking about is this propensity to worry and to be concerned and to thinking about things can be improved. I can be improved. And there is a big confusion, which is that, which I was mentioning a minute ago, we take ourselves to be something perceived, to be something that exists, something that has exited outside of consciousness, and now is a form, is some sort of object, the birth and death of the me. Your experience does not support that. Your experience is that of awareness.
That's an interesting turn of the phrase. You said it exits. It seems to exit, and then it exists.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yes.
Otherwise, it's sat.
Yes. So the way out of this quagmire is to contemplate that there is no evidence that you are some distinct form. You perceive and you experience distinct forms. You perceive specific bodily sensations, specific perceptions, images, thoughts, mentations. But you are not what you perceive. You are not something perceived. So you're not an object. You are the formless knowingness, the formless beingness, the formless awareness, beingness, awareness, Satchitananda.
There's such a huge movement in the sort of spiritual world these days, new age spiritual world, kind of, to say, if I'm going to pay attention to important things like diet. Are you getting an echo?
No, I'm hearing you fine.
That if you're going to really pay attention to those things, and if you're going to really enjoy yourself, etc., that you have to provisionally buy into your body-mind existence with a certain nod of identity. And I don't go for that because it seems like you can enjoy it even more without any of that.
You can enjoy the body mind and care for the body mind and manage the body mind without being the body mind. Like if you are managing a building with tenants in it, you are not a tenant. You are the manager. You're the manager of the property. You are not the property. You manage your car. You take care of your car. Yes. But you are not your car. So this view that if you're taking care of the body, you're taking care of the mind, you're taking care of your relationship, you're being watchful and careful and bringing those qualities of consciousness into your life, that therefore you're buying into the identity. No, that you have to experiment with that and find out for yourself if it's possible or not. That you can take care of your body without attachment, without identification. We do that when we feed the body. The body says, "I'm hungry," so we feed the body. We don't, when the body says enough, we say, "Okay, enough." So I think that's like, it's a new age nonsense.
Psychology, maybe.
Psychology.
Nonsense psychology.
Nonsense, yes, a new age nonsense psychology. But
because if it weren't true, if it were true that you need a modicum of identity in order to have joy for life to be joyful. If you had to have that, then when something goes wrong, you wouldn't have an immediate resolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did hear that there is an echo. Tara said there is an echo, but I'm not hearing it. I'm hearing you fine, Ananda.
Okay.
You're okay on your end?
I hear an echo of my voice, but not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I have everything set up as usual, so I don't know
I
what
see.
it is.
Okay, well, we'll live with it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not interfering here, but I hope.
I think this is better, Tara.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. Maybe the volume. Okay. So, if we can be only happy when we are identified, that is a contradiction. Because identification is a sort of reduction. It's a reduction from the wholeness to the personhood. The me worries, the me concerns.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen to me? Will I be okay tomorrow? Why did he or she do this to me? That's the personhood. That's the identification. If we can only celebrate and take care and manage our life by being unhappy, that's a pretty miserable predicament.
Right.
In fact, we know happiness.
Mm-hmm.
We know happiness and peace.
Mm-hmm.
We know happiness and peace in our deep sleep, for example. We know happiness and peace where we're watching a beautiful performance, or listening to a beautiful concert, or watching a beautiful sunrise or sunset, or just looking over the field,
mm-hmm.
or looking at a friend's face. We feel this peace and happiness. But at those moments of peace and happiness, there is an absence of mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Therefore, there is an absence of identification.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is an actual sort of, the impression dissolves in the self. There is a dissolution of all impressions into the vastness of being,
mm-hmm.
which is happiness, peace and happiness. Mm-hmm. Identification is the images and the thoughts and the contractions as a me, as a body-mind form. The contraction as a body-mind form is not is not the openness of being.
Yes.
So there is intelligence at the body-mind level that does not require identification. The simple intelligence that allows the blood flow, that allows the breath, the intelligence of gravity and the intelligence of surface tension and the cosmology. There is a certain principles that operate without identification and that make the rainbow, that make the rain and allow the seeds to sprout and the trees to bloom and the flowers to bloom
and love to shine.
Yes. Love shines as everything when there isn't an identification, in the absence of segmentation, in the absence of separation. Love shines as everything. As peace, as happiness.
So, somebody was talking about John Klein used to say fragmentation is the problem of people, and the way you've been talking about this, I see if there's a fragmentation that way, not a wholeness, there's bound to be trouble.
Yes, fragmentation is an unhappy dream. In fact, in your experience, in your direct experience, there is no such thing as fragmentation. But in your thinking realm and your feeling realm, there may be the impression, there are images that and sensations, bodily sensations that are unhappy, that we refer to as fragmentation. The fault of me immediately pulls, it's as if consciousness is pulling itself into a form and not into the wholeness. So now there is a separate consciousness and there is an external world, and there are separate other consciousnesses. And so that's, I think, what we refer to as segmentation. It's a mental and physiological impression that has no foundation in the reality of the self, in the one reality, the reality of consciousness. It does not stand. It has no evidence to it. It has no validity to it. But the contemplation is crucial for that understanding and for that it's not really transformation, for the dissolution of the ignorance. There is a direct contemplation, which is your direct experience, because your direct experience is unsegmented, it's the wholeness, it's the stillness. There are no objects in your direct experience. There is only consciousness.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's the magic.
Yes, that's the beauty. And then the mentation and the labeling, it provides the impression of segmentation, but it's not troublesome for once the realization of the wholeness is established. Then it does not matter. There may be people, trees, cars, and so on, but it's all experienced as the wholeness, because there is a deep knowingness. It's not just a mental knowingness. There's been a dissolution of the ignorance, which is the sahaja samadhi, and then the labels that don't say, there are nothing segments the wholeness. In fact, nothing actually segments the wholeness, but we are not knowing of it. Mm-hmm. That's why we refer to the term ignorance. We are ignorant of the wholeness that we are, of the wholeness of consciousness. So a sage is knowingly the wholeness of consciousness, mm-hmm. the universality of consciousness. He or she is knowingly that. Mm-hmm. While in ignorance, we are that, but we're not knowingly that.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that you started saying transformation, and then you stopped. You said, no, not transformation. And because transformation would assume this person.
Yes.
Improved or whatever.
Yes.
It's just the wholeness, seeing through the segmentation, imagination.
Yes. It implies time. Yeah.
What, that time?
It implies time and effort and.
You become a butterfly.
Yes, right. The caterpillar becoming a butterfly. We are the caterpillar and the butterfly. And none of that. We are the wholeness of being, yes.
Well, I think you cleared that up. Thank you. I mean, you helped me very much.
Okay, Ananda. Okay, beautiful. Nice talking to you, Ananda.
Thank you.
Hello, Randa. So, Randa, you write, how does perception take place? What roles do the senses play, and what is the role of the mind? Okay, Randa. First, let us clarify the terms. So, the term mind refers to thought, memories, images, mentations. And in a broader sense, the term mind refers to the phenomenal realm, meaning it includes perceptions and bodily sensations. There is no such a thing as a mind. Our experience is composed of perceptions, bodily sensations, and mentation. That's what we call the mind, but in fact, there is no such a thing as a mind. We also sometimes refer to the term mind, commonly in ignorance, we refer to the mind as me, as the person. But I don't refer to the term mind as a person, because there is no such thing as a person and no such thing as a mind. But we could say that there are perceptions, and like right now there is this perception. There are bodily sensations, such as the sensation of your feet on the ground. And there are thoughts, memories, and images, such as the thoughts that are being expressed right now. So I do, and others refer to that as the mind. Just to clarify the term. So your question is, how does perception take place, and what role do the senses play, and what is the role of the mind? The senses relate to the body form. We have the five senses. And there are organs within the body that we have referred to as pertaining to those senses. So vision refers to the eyes, and hearing to the ears, etc. Touch and taste to the tongue. What is olfactory to the nose. So we have identified via thought certain parts of the body that refer to the senses, the five senses. Now, in fact, the body is much more complex than the senses. I'm sure you understand that, you know that. It's a whole system. It's the brain and the skin and the cells and the blood cells and the entire organism, which is very complex, a human organism, is one whole organism working together. Like the brain cannot function without the heart cannot function without the brain, the eyes cannot function without the optic nerve cannot function without the blood flow. Blood flow is connected to oxygenation. Oxygenation is connected to nutrition. So the body is a whole organism. It's completely interconnected. But beyond that, beyond the body, there is the environment. There is the sunshine, the air, the moisture in the air that is important for the human body. It's gravity that is important for the human body, because without gravity, we'll just zoom out in outer space and very soon we'll be in deep trouble. There are plants and that feed us, and the rain and the oceans, and so in a way, like the air is our lungs, and all the plants, you know, our stomach, and the light of the sun is our vision. So there is an interconnection that goes beyond the body. So to incorporate the entire cosmic realm, like our galaxy has a certain gravitational field to it that is just right, and it's connected to the other galaxies in the universe via the vast space, the black matter, and the entire radioactive field and other fields. I mean, our understanding and our knowledge of the cosmology is minute. The deeper we look, the vaster and more complex and more intricate we find the cosmos to be. But the point that I'm making is that when we talk of the senses and we look at from a broader view, we perceive that the senses are interconnected with the whole body, and the body is connected to the entire cosmos. So in a way, our senses are the body, and the body is the cosmos as one. So the question is, what is it that perceives? Is it the eyes? Is it the brain? Is it the body? Is it the cosmos? They're all one. Is an intimate? It is an intimacy. Could it be that it is this intimacy that perceives? Because you ask, how does perception take place? Given that the body, mind, and the cosmos are inseparable, what is it that perceives? Is perception a cosmic perception? Or is it perception a personal perception? When we believe, which many of us believe, that perception is personal, and we examine what is this person, we go deeper and deeper into the thoughts, into the beliefs, into the ideas, the idea of a person. Because in this very moment, without the idea of the person, what is a person? Without the idea of me, without identifying any feeling, any sensation as a me. Imagine right now that for a moment you are completely free of any labeling. There isn't a thought that you're labeling as me. And you're not labeling any bodily sensation as me. Then what is the person? But as soon as the me thought, the I thought, the personhood thoughts, me, this woman, me, this man, me, this person, arises, and there is the feeling that, oh, I'm here, I'm a me. Meaning it's a bodily sensation that's been labeled as this is what I am. Then there is an impression of personhood that is due, or it is intrinsic to that belief. The person is intrinsic to the belief, to the thought that I'm a person. It's intrinsic to identifying this feeling, this sensation, this neutral bodily sensation as me. So the person is made out of an identification. An identification is made out of thought. And thought, what is it? In this moment, what can you say about what a thought is? In fact, we don't know. The only thing we know for certain is awareness. We may have many thoughts about thoughts. We may have many thoughts about this or that. But what is a thought? What is it that knows thought? Is it not awareness? In this moment, if you go to a thought, where do you go? You don't go anywhere. You remain as that. You remain as beingness, as awareness, as peace, as the self. So to come back to your question, what does perception, how does perception, but there is perception, there are perceptions, you say. Yes, you could say there are perceptions. But try to find one perception. As you go to it, where do you go? Doesn't it change every millisecond? Doesn't it change every microsecond? How is it in your experience? Isn't perception changing every? You can't even count in 1 second how many perceptions you have. Okay, count in 1 minute how many perceptions you have. Yes, it changes, and it's so. If you want to know anything, you have to go to the changeless. You have to go to the reality of the perception. If you really want to know what the perception is, you say, what is perception? you cannot go to the perception itself, because as you take a step towards it, it's changed already. You take another step, it's changed. So how can you answer this question by going towards a perception? But as you go towards a perception, you will find that you're going nowhere. There is nowhere to go for the perception. Because the perception is reality. What it truly is consciousness. Consciousness taking on the form of an image, a dream, a sensation. Like when you're looking at a screen and you say, you're seeing images on the screen. You ask, well, there are images on the screen. But, okay, let me step back. Imagine there is a screen that the images arise out of the screen. It's a screen, there's no projector. It's a screen that emanates images on its surface within itself, from within itself. So you look at the screen and you see these images and you say, oh, what are these images? These images are the screen. The images arise from the screen. They're made out of the screen. They dissolve in the screen. And the screen can be with infinite images. Much more than you've perceived in your lifetime. But also the screen can be without images. That's not a blank, dead screen. No, it's not like that. It's a screen that is fully knowing itself. The screen is made out of self-knowingness. Another word for that is a screen that's made out of peace and bliss. Ananda. Satchit Ananda. It's made out of Ananda. This is a screen of bliss, the screen of the universal screen of bliss and freedom, joy and happiness. That's beyond the world, body, mind impressions. Randa, you write, how do you shift the attention from the images to the screen? Whenever you're looking at the images, you're looking at the screen. The images are not separate from the screen. They're not segmented. There is a continuity, the continuity of consciousness. And the continuity of consciousness does not depend on the continuity of the images. Consciousness is not subject to the images. The images are subject to consciousness. Consciousness is the freedom of the self. So you turn your attention from the images to the screen by contemplating the self, via the contemplation of the self, like the contemplation that we are doing right now. And in the contemplations, you get to a certain understanding. There are insights. And these insights, they take you closer and closer to the self, closer and closer. Or let's say, they dissolve, they erode the ignorance. They erode the belief that there is an external world and an internal self, which is duality. In fact, the perceiver is not an object. It's consciousness, awareness, the formless self. And the perceived is not an object either. Because you don't perceive objects, you perceive your perceptions, which are intimate, at zero distance of you. You're not perceiving something out there. You're perceiving at zero distance. You're perceiving consciousness itself, is perceiving itself as a form. But this is just language. Now, the impression of form is a result of consciousness seemingly leaving its wholeness and perceiving through the eyes, through the body-mind of a personal self. But in fact, all personal selves are the self, are the one self. So consciousness seemingly leaves itself and perceives through infinite body minds. And that way, it creates the world and the play that we refer to as the human experience. So the human experience is staged by consciousness, conceived by consciousness. And to play this game, to perceive a world with infinite minds, it seemingly reduces itself in 7 billion or even more through the animal kingdom and other infinite kingdoms. It reduces itself seemingly to experience multiple mind and multiple realms. It is the one consciousness that's playing this game and that is perceiving via infinite minds. It's as if consciousness is millions and zillions of of minds. It extends itself in, and perceives through all these minds without ever leaving its wholeness. I know it sounds very weird, but it sounds weird because in doing that, the game is interesting when I don't know your mind. Like right now, Randa, I don't know what you are looking at or what you had for breakfast. So it's more interesting. The game is more interesting, more amusing when there is this element of not knowing. Because if I know everything about you, what you're going to say, what you're thinking, what's the point of me even talking with you right now? Because I know everything about you and you know everything about me. It's like what I'm going to say right now. You don't need to even call me or get online here to share with me what we are sharing, because we would know it. When you go to the movie or to the play, why do you go to the play? If you know every word and everything that is going to be said and done, you wouldn't go. It would not be interesting. Anyways, I think I went way beyond the scope of your question. And Randa, you're right. Sometimes images seem to be more real than the screen. Yeah, they seem to be more real than the screen, but I like the word you used, they seem to be. Because it's more amusing when you get absorbed into the movie. If you go to the movie and you're watching the screen, you're watching all the images, but you're saying, you know, or this, you're looking at the screen somehow. How can you enjoy the movie? If you go to a play and you're just watching the stage and you're not watching the performance, it's not fun. So it is more fun when the images seem to be real. But the suffering doesn't come from the images seeming real. The unhappiness, the suffering, comes from believing that that's an external reality, and therefore that I am a separate person. I perceive this world as real. It doesn't bother me a bit. Okay. So it's amusing when I'm cooking. I'm not going to say, "Oh, this is a dream carrot." I don't even say that. I take the carrot and wash it, cut it, peel it, eat it. But the key thing is not to believe yourself to be something else, to be some object, some form, a separate reality. All this that seems to be real is the reality of consciousness. So you need to understand that the images that seem real is because of the reality of consciousness. And that's what gives them the impression of being real. Yes, the investigation is ongoing. This is what's really beautiful about the investigation, the contemplation of the self. It's a journey of love. We just go on deeper and deeper and deeper in the ocean of love. It's very beautiful. And at some point, along the way, along the way, the unhappiness gets less and less and less, and we find ourselves more and more and more and more happy. And then we're just happy, contemplating our happiness, celebrating our happiness. Does the investigation carry on in the night dream? It depends. It is possible at some point, in the maturing, in the ripening of your investigation, there may come a point where you will find the contemplation that you're carrying on during the day, that you're also carrying it on during night dream. And you may find yourself noticing the person, the me character in your night dream. It's not essential. I'm saying it is possible. Because the contemplation is actually takes care during the waking dream. We carry on the contemplation of the self, the investigation into the illusion of the identity during the waking dream, during the waking state. And it's during this contemplation that the me impression recedes and starts to become more and more transparent and dissolves, and consciousness comes to the forefront and fills the entire space, becomes the reality of the self. Then it pervades into your night dream. The peace, the bliss of the self during the day doesn't stop during your night dream. In other words, your night dream, you cannot be happy during the waking state and unhappy in the night dream. If you're unhappy in the night dream and you're saying, I'm happy during the waking state, you are lying to yourself. Maybe lying to others too, I don't know. But you're lying to yourself. The happiness in your waking state will be the happiness is the happiness in your night dream. The waking dream and the night dream are one. But the core of the work, if not all of the work, the contemplation, is during the waking state. It happens sometime in the night dream. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yes. Okay, Rhonda. Beautiful. And thank you for your questions. Okay, Isaac, if you can hear me, and you have a question, I opened my messenger and I could read your question. So I'll keep an eye on the messenger in case there is a question. Otherwise, it's okay. Let's see. Okay. So Ananda, you're right. Does the experience of falling in love necessarily bring confusion? Okay.
I can see that being love or being in love is not necessarily confused, but falling in love,
Mm-hmm.
a big emotional shift.
Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't say falling in love or being in love, because we are love. I as consciousness, as universal consciousness, not as personal consciousness. I consciousness, universal consciousness, is love. So
so there has to be something that you imagine yourself to be that's falling.
Yes, if you're talking about falling in love, just, you know, it's just an expression we say, I'm falling in love, but it's important to be clear, because a lot of our confusion and our language are connected. You know, our ignorance and language sort of mirrors some of the ignorance that we have, some of the lack of clarity that we have. So in language is important to be used as precisely as possible. It's not just about trying to make a big deal about the language. So it's just to bring some clarity about about the truth. So what is it that falls in love? Yes, I mean, yes. So you fall in love, then you fall out of love. I fell head over heel in love, and then, oh my God, you know.
Where's the doctor?
Right, quickly. Yes. So I am love is very beautiful, because I am love is universal love. I am love. Thou are love. All is love. I am I as consciousness. I'm the wholeness of being. Everything is love. All is love. I, thou, all is love. So falling in love, you know, it's all consciousness's doing. Consciousness needs us some time to okay, well, let me see, one moment. Okay, so I'll come back. Marianne, if you are hearing me, I read your question, and I'll just be going over it in a minute. Yeah. Okay. So it is all consciousness is doing, Ananda. Now, when we are perceiving our happiness and our experience of love, it's projected in another person or in an experience, we are doomed for disappointment. It's just a matter of time. So if you're falling in love with somebody, there is bound to be some disappointment. Now, there is a sort of, we can call it love, that manifests itself. Consciousness just brings people together in this experience of wholeness. When you fall in love, there isn't a me and a you. This person and you are become one. And that's the beauty about love, is that love has no me and you. It transcends that. And of course, then the me and the you comes into the picture. It take a week, a month, a year, whatever. Oh, you're doing this and that. Oh, I didn't know this about you. Why I should have taken more time, to have and that's when the me comes in, and my ideas and my conditions and my stories. So it's helpful to contemplate that love is the absence of a me and a you, meaning it's universal, and it's being celebrated in a couple or with friends. It's a celebration of love in a couple or with friends is the celebration of our innate wholeness, separateness, and that's very beautiful. There is no personal agenda in love. Personal agendas are at the mind level.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. Do you want it to go to another question? That's fine.
Okay, and on that, but yes, just to
sure.
Let me see if paste. Okay, Marianne, I'm not sure if you are hearing me or not. Yeah. But I'm replying to your question now online. Okay. So Marianne writes, I don't know if this is where you post questions. Actually, it's okay to post questions in the messenger because it does pop up, but the best is if you can join the Hangout. I have a feeling that some people are unable to join the Hangout for some reason. So the question is, I wonder about how to deal with the terrible events in the world from the point of view of consciousness, war, crime, abuse. How does this rhyme with love and bliss? Well, it does not rhyme at all with love and bliss. Yeah. So the terrible events in the world from point of view of consciousness do not rhyme. War, crime, and abuse do not rhyme with love and bliss. Love and bliss is the complete absence of world events. Yes, complete absence of world events. So how to deal with the terrible events? The way you deal with the terrible events is by awakening to the self, is by awakening from the me impression. The me impression is miserable, and it's the me impression that is the root cause of wars, crimes, and awful anxieties and awful psychological states. The entire personal experience is a bad dream. Now, this does not mean that the human experience is necessarily a bad dream. What I'm saying is that 99% or 99.9% of the human experience is a bad dream, because there is a mass virus. There is a virus that infects the human psyche, which is the belief in mortality, the belief in personhood, the belief in separate realities. That's the cause of anxiety, of fear, of concern, of jealousy, of anger, of desiring, of coveting, of envying, and so on. And of course, that's the cause of wars and crimes and all sorts of abuses in the world, body, mind. You do not contemplate, you do not come to the revelation of the self, or you do not deal with the terrible events of the world at the world level. You deal with the terrible world event, the terrible world events at the consciousness level. And of course, at the world level, if some opportunities arise in your life to be of some help, then of course you take that opportunity. It's not a mission, because there is no point in trying to fix the dream from the dream level. The dream is fixed, let's say, is blessed from beyond the dream. But again, at the world body mind, you can live in as harmony as possible with the principles of consciousness. You can live with the understanding that we are all the same consciousness. You can live with the understanding as best as you can that the consciousness that perceives through others' eyes is the same consciousness that perceives through your eyes. That the benefit is not just for you. The benefit is for everybody. So you live taking whoever is in your space in consideration in your heart. And of course, you take everybody in your heart beyond that. But in terms of your relationships, you act for not just your personal benefit, but also you take in consideration the benefit of the people you're interacting with, the people you're working with, your family, your friends. But it's not a mission. It comes from your contemplation that you are the seamless self, that the I is the universal I. I refers to the formless, borderless, eternal, infinite self. Then jealousy makes no sense. Anger makes no sense. Coveting or despising makes no sense. You love yourself as everyone and everything. You love everyone and everything as yourself. Nothing ever happens to what you truly are. You need to come to this understanding in order to be helpful, in order to be the light of being onto others. How can you be of help when you are coming from a personal agenda? You think that your agenda is better than other people's agendas? You believe that your point of view is better than another person's point of view? That you are better than the person who is committing a crime? That's arrogant. You are not better than the murderer, than the rapist. You're not better. Why? Why? Because nobody chooses to do that. There is no personal chooser. They do not want to do what they're doing. There is no I in that, no person in that. You don't choose your thoughts. You don't choose your thoughts. You need to contemplate that. And you are the witness of your thoughts. And your actions arise from the thoughts that you perceive. The thought is, I want to have a nice salad. I'm going to make a nice squash soup. That thought arises to you. You don't choose to think the thought. It arises to you, and then you go and you buy the ingredients and you make the soup. Given that you are not the personal chooser of your thoughts, you can apply that to others. Others are not the personal choosers of their thoughts. Thoughts are cosmic events. And therefore the actions that results from these thoughts are cosmic actions. Now, I did not mean to say by what I said that it's all equal, that actions that arise out of peaceful, happy thoughts and actions that arise out of envious, angry thoughts are the same actions. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to be careful about not judging others, because it's just judging others that creates more separation, and that leads to more unhappiness and more actions of conflict. To have some sympathy and some understanding that this is where they're at right now. This is what their path right now. To be a victim or to be a victimizer is one's path. You cannot avoid being a victim when it's your path to be a victim. And you cannot avoid being a victimizer when it's your path to be a victimizer at that point in time in your journey. I know the mind cannot comprehend that and has its fixed conclusions about how things should be. But things are not dictated by the mind. They're dictated by consciousness. That works in mysterious ways. Sometimes great suffering is what we need to experience. And we all know, we all have experienced great suffering in our life. It had its place. It had its purpose. Even if the mind doesn't understand it, it was what was needed at the time. So you can approach the events in the world from the point of view, or taking in mind some of what I just shared with you. Okay, Marianne, I don't know if you heard that, but I'm just going to type you a message that you can watch. You can watch the reply on YouTube. Okay. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like maybe you've heard me, Marianne, and okay, beautiful. So otherwise, yes, you can watch it later. Okay. Oh, beautiful. Okay, great. You heard. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So if there are any other questions. Okay. Okay, if there are any other questions, anyone? Yes, being in love, no falling required. Yeah, being is love. Beingness is love. Being a person, then that's a different story. Being a person is not a very happy dream.
I suppose being in love is confusing. I mean, being a person is confusing.
Yeah, as soon as there is an identification with a personal identity, meaning when consciousness downloads itself as a body mind, it is experiencing a personal perception, and its wholeness, its whole knowingness, let's say, its whole knowingness now has been reduced to an individual knowingness.
Mm-hmm.
And the knowingness of the wholeness of consciousness is temporarily forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how it experiences me as a person and the world as an external image.
Mm-hmm.
And when it recollects itself via the contemplation of the self and via grace, when it reconnects with its wholeness, when it sort of chooses to recollect itself, okay?
Yes.
To recollect its wholeness, it can play both games. It can be joyful in the world, body, mind realm, celebrating its freedom and its joy and dancing, without forgetting itself, knowing itself. That is the Sahaja Samadhi.
Right. Okay.
Then love is universal. The experience of love. Everything is love. All is love. And we don't fall in love with a person. We fall in love with the self. We fall in love with ourselves, with the self. The self loving itself, celebrating itself out of its freedom. It says, okay, you too, bingo. When I met Tara, there was no me and no you. It was very beautiful. Still is.
Lovely.
Okay, Marianne sent a message. I cannot make myself hurt somehow. Okay. There is, if you're on screen and you move your cursor up, at least on my screen, when I move the cursor up, there is there are various what do you call them? Help me on the whatever. You can click on the volume and you can hear me. And now I unmuted myself so you can hear me. So there is a way of doing that. Okay, Marianne, so you ask, I cannot make myself heard somehow. One more question if there is time. Yes, there is. Consciousness is the designer of our dream. How is the dream designed? Okay, it's important to understand that the dream, as you said in your question, is designed by consciousness. And it's also important to understand that the dream is not separate from consciousness. Like right now, your perception is at zero distance of yourself. In other words, you're perceiving your perception. You're hearing, you are hearing. You are hearing, you're hearing. You're perceiving your perception. You're not perceiving something out there. You're not hearing something out there. If you listen to the train, toot, where is that sound? Is it out there, toot, or is it in here? Toot. So it's important to understand that yes, consciousness is the designer of the dream, and consciousness is what experiences the dream as itself, at zero distance of itself. And of course, the dream is constantly changing. It's the images are constantly changing from second to second to second to second. So the dream is designed out of the complete freedom of consciousness. Consciousness is borderless presence, borderless beingness. It has no borders. It has no definition. Nothing constrains it. There is no other reality that tells it do this and do that. It is the reality. There's only one reality, which is the reality of consciousness. We know that I am conscious. And we know that this I refers to consciousness. That I, consciousness, is conscious of being conscious. Consciousness is self-conscious. Awareness is self-aware. I use those two terms, consciousness and awareness, synonymously. So consciousness experiences the world, body, mind out of itself, out of its infinite freedom, creates it, and witnesses it, experiences it, and dissolves it. It conceives it, creates it, experiences it, and dissolves it, instant by instant. Outside of time. It even creates, conceives, creates, experiences, and dissolves the impression of time, the idea of time, the feeling of time. So your question, which reads again, how is the dream designed, may be, here I'm extrapolating, may be addressed to receive an answer from the mind. So it is the way it is designed is this is the process by which consciousness designs the dream. That's how the mind is looking to understand. I want to understand consciousness. It is important for you to understand that the mind cannot understand consciousness. Now, it's important for you not to accept that. Don't accept it because I'm saying it or because anybody is saying it. Let's just spend a minute to clarify what I mean by the mind cannot understand consciousness. First, as I said previously to Brenda, by the mind, I refer to thoughts, meditations, thoughts, and also perceptions and bodily sensations. That's the mind. So by the mind, I refer to something that is perceived. You perceive a thought. You perceive a memory. You perceive an image. You perceive a bodily sensations. So it's something that is perceived. The mind is something perceived. It's perceived by consciousness. Consciousness meaning I consciousness perceives the thought. I consciousness perceives the oak tree. I consciousness perceives the clouds. I consciousness perceives the bodily sensation. So the mind is perceived by that which we refer to as consciousness, that is not perceived. Consciousness is not perceived. What is perceived cannot perceive. You follow? The oak tree cannot perceive the perceiver. A thought cannot perceive another thought, cannot perceive that which perceives it. A bodily sensation cannot perceive another bodily sensation. Bodily sensation cannot perceive a thought, cannot perceive a perception. So what is perceived, meaning what we refer to as the mind, cannot perceive consciousness, cannot perceive, period, and of course cannot perceive consciousness. So it's an important point that I detect in your question, that you want to know at the mind level, how does consciousness create the dream? The mind cannot know, but consciousness knows. It knows its infinite freedom, its vastness, its wholeness, its borderless beingness, its infinite potential. Infinite potential. It creates whatever it wants to create. Now, at the mind level, we're perceiving the world, body, mind, we're perceiving countries, states, food, carrots, friends, the clouds, the rain. And we say, wow, that's amazing how the consciousness can create these perceptions. But you need to realize that these perceptions are not even one grain of sand compared to what consciousness is creating, can create, will create, and dissolve. It's not even 1% of the infinite vastness of consciousness. Our world, body, mind experience is nothing. Not even a drop in the face of the vastness of the ocean. A wave is not even noticeable in the vastness of the ocean. What we experience at the body-mind level, in the human realm, is just one tiny realm in the infinite realms of the potential of consciousness. That is a mind-blowing thing, isn't it? Anyways, thank you for your question, Marianne. Let me see. because I have to go back and forth between the messenger and the, okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for your questions. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your lovely company. It's really beautiful to be with you as usual. And so I bow to you, and we'll see each other next week. Okay. Be all happy, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.